Hello there. This is bigSHow, theGod. And today's podcast is opinion. Opinions versus perspective. It's not really versus perspective. Opinions with perspective. How's that? Opinions with perspective. We got there. So this is another one of my UNCUT Thoughts of a God series. And today's one, I thought I'd go into a bit more generalizing of how I think about things. And this, how I frame these projects, how I frame these two words with opinions with perspective will kind of show how I think about things, I think. So whether I like it or not, I already have an opinion about a lot of things in my world. I assume that most people do. And I think it's reasonable to suggest that my opinions have been developed over the years from experiences to what I've been told, what I've learned, what I've seen, what I've heard, all that sort of stuff, right? And that's formed me an opinion. Now, whether it's true or whether it's positive, whether it's beneficial, whether it's inclusive, whether it's, end of the day, those are questions that are outside of my opinion, right? So for me, my opinions come from different perspectives and they have a perspective to the opinion. And I use that, I think, enables me to change my opinion or to see my opinion from a different perspective. And that allows me to have maybe more than one opinion on a subject, or allows me to understand more about the opinion I hold, and ultimately even challenge it and question it. So I like to frame that up and challenge every opinion I have, which ultimately gives more depth to my opinion. It can make things more difficult and make things that seem simple a bit more complicated. It can sort of make me have to explain things a little bit more, or feel like I need to. And then I guess that works together, right? So when you need to when you feel you need to explain something, then you have to have some depth to that. So explaining the perspective you have becomes a thing. And so what I mean by that is I find if you can't explain your current opinion with some sort of depth, then I think that's a problem. But I do recognize that that's not easy. It's not easy, and for some it's frustrating, and we don't want to have to explain ourselves. It's almost like there's a bit of a skill in that to explain something, or maybe it's more that it's quite a bit. You can feel vulnerable, or you can just be ignorant to those sorts of things, which I was too, I guess. And you could be wrong. I think that's probably the part too. So there's fear in having to explain your position. You can look stupid. You can not have an answer. You can, have to say, I don't know. It's not a phrase we kind of like to use. So yeah, so that's how I think about. That's my mindset with how I've gone about most things. And so, maybe I should put some topics out there. There's not a topic that I don't have an opinion on that I work towards actually having some reasonable, rational, informational, knowledgeable piece or amount to my opinion. Some I have a lot more, and then the bits that I have a limited amount of an opinion, a limited amount, then it's sort of sits there. And then I can probably be swayed, and on those ones I can kind of be more on the fence about, I guess. And then the ones here that I have lots of information, lots of data on, then I'm a little bit more I'm still skeptical about both. Oh, what's this? Steve speaking. Hey, bro, what's happening? Yeah, mate. Are you there, bro? Oh, the password. Oh, yeah, that's your PC, and the password's not there, huh? It's not working. He's changed it. Hold on, he might have emailed me it. Here it is. I'll text you what I've got, and because it's quite a bloody pain in the ass password by the looks. Yeah, it's, where is it? Oh no, try W, because it was WR something A. Okay, try WR 2021, capital Z, capital A. Z for zero, A for apple. Oh, has he? Okay, Z and A. Add those to the end. Yeah, or try that while we're on the phone so you can see if it's, does it let you in? Oh, give it a try and come back. See. Yeah, so where was I? Topics? Was I going to topics? Topics, yeah. Yeah, I think I was going into how much information I have holds my opinion and then takes a little bit more to shift my opinion. So I have subsets of how I look at things, because it gets complicated with words, I guess, when we assign words to things. So we look at some topics, and I might use one that I've recently changed my opinion on, and in the course of my life at least. And then through some more education and some more, and not even scientific education too, that used to be one of my biggest prerequisites on my opinion, was the scientific or evidence-based the evidence and the science behind it would give it more weight, for my opinion. Now, 99% of the time it still does. It's still, there is room for other human pieces to be added to the side, which I wouldn't have gone with, because then that leads into things that are generally not true. But then I can see that whether it matters or not, if it's true for some things. So if I pick a topic, I wrote some down here. I know the gender one was an interesting one. I went through a bit of a journey on gender, and I looked at that, and it seemed pretty straight up and down for me. And I was I was adamant, but so we look at gender, and I go, well, that's a scientific term, and so I struggle to shift from a scientific term for something, you know, when we measure something, that's what it measures. If you want to have another term for it, I'm not sure why we would do that, but I guess gender is one of those ones that we have a term for something. So if we go male or female, male, female, there's a scientific term for that. It's just an explanation about this species or this animal or this terminology for a male and a female, you know, and there's quite a lot. There's a background story to how that word is applied and what that equals to, well, to me. So a male is this and a female is this. And it just seems like it's done. It's over. You know, yet here I am. And I go, okay, so there's that. I go, yep, male, female. And then so someone else can sit here and say, well, look, I want to be known as a female. And I go, okay. My first instinct is to say, you're not a female. But that person's perspective and experience and living and breathing and world of and that all ties into their world. Everything about them is say male or female. Yet the scientific term for you based on the physical piece is that you're a male or a female. You know what I mean? So I must admit, I'll be thinking, wow, you know, everything apart from the physical bits associate for me as a female or a male. So I could understand that this would bother me. So then would I have to have another term? But societies, we're tricky, right? We're built on these truths. And we're built on these classifications. We've classified you. So that's what it's built on. And that's where it ends. And that's where I'm starting to go, well, hold on, I don't know. I understand. I understand the truth of the scientific measurement of method. That's what we use for males and that's what we use for females. But then when a person or someone like, if I'm living my whole life, apparently, and my in all my experiences, my emotions, my day-to-day actions, even my mannerisms, all that stuff there is the opposite. Then me identifying as that, I don't see why that's a problem. I don't see the problem in that, to be honest. So where's the problem? I think the problem was with me. The problem was with me not understanding that it can be more than just the physical piece to it. So in that particular case, I'm willing to, in a science book, in my opinion, you're still a male or a female. And that's that bit. It's over with that. But from a living kind of how I spend my life perspective, I don't really see the issue. I don't see the issue of identifying as yourself as a male or a female. I do know people start going, oh, well, identify yourself as a cat or identify yourself as a mouse or an animal, another animal. I mean, I guess, it's, if there are people out there that are doing that, I don't know if I have a problem with that either, if I'm honest. I don't hear of them. If there's groups out there that are identifying themselves as another animal, okay. And even that, I'm not sure if that's an issue. So yeah, so that's something that I was already kind of pro individual living anyway, so maybe that was an easier thing to overcome for me. But I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think it took me a bit. So on that, it just took me a bit more education on it, to be honest. And it took me a little bit more looking at it from a different perspective, which is what I've done then, which I wasn't always doing. And don't get me wrong, I can always view it from another perspective, but still disagree and hold my opinion 100%. And don't get me wrong, I'm still with the science of that's a male and that's a female. I'm not moving away from that piece, but I'm very cool with whoever sits here and wants to be identified as this from me. I may muck it up or forget or thing it. Well, I forget your name. I mean, it's nothing personal. But I think that's a small piece of change for me. So I don't have a problem with it. I know sports. I remember Rogan, the Joe Rogan clown. He seemed to have a big thing about sports. Men participating in women's sports. I mean, really? Who cares? Is that that's the piece? That's the big issue? How many are doing it? And if they do, you take it by case, wouldn't you? I mean, most of the athletics bodies and all that, they have their freaking rules anyway. They'll just add this as a rule, maybe. Don't know. I mean, I think you can work through that. I don't think that's a big, all of a sudden there's all these guys signing up for women's tennis or, okay, women's wrestling. Ooh, there's a loophole. Man, that seems good. I'll go sign up for women's wrestling. Fucking hell. There's a subset of a subset to be really good at that thing anyway, whether you're a man or a woman. You identify as a woman and you're a wrestler and you happen to be very, very good at it. And then all of a sudden you're competing in women's wrestling. I'm not sure if you're at the Olympics. You were born a man and now you're in the women's Olympic wrestling team. I'm not sure there's much of that happening. It becomes a thing, I think. I think we'll get over it, So yeah, so I think what I was trying to do there was share how I can hold an opinion and then, over time with some more wider views can change it. Because I do realize I was a little bit on the sport thing, I was like, oh, no, you can't have, imagine that, so I get that. I can have that be but then I can go, well, there's a lot more things going on than a person playing sport or being in this elite level. I don't know if there's many people that are gender based anyway. I'm not sure. I think the percentage of people will be pretty low, would have thought. But anyway, so that type of mindset for me, or process that I go through, kind of allows me to, I think, be more open, and I think be able to have multiple perspectives on even the same subject and then apply it as I go, So you end up being less. So I used to be a bit more divisive, like black, white, whereas now I can be, which I probably always was, a little bit on the greys, a little bit on the whites, depending on how it impacted and came into my circles. I guess if I had more gender people that wanted to change their genders, there'd probably be more. And I'd probably have a different opinion on it after a while if I lived around it a bit more. Don't know. Can't see it. But, maybe I would think, well, this is not right. Don't know. And then there was the other one, even the Black Lives Matter. I hummed and hawed about that for a while. And I had my different views on it. And I take it for what it is, When I first heard it, I think it was just putting some attention on a particular reoccurring societal events, that have put themselves in the front of the of that society's minds, you know. And I don't have a problem with that either, to be honest. I don't take offense. I don't take offense to a culture trying to put attention onto themselves to generate some type of change or generate some type of momentum, which ultimately will be positive in their view. So that, you know, I don't necessarily subscribe to sitting here, you know, that I'm going to hold the banner up and be proactive towards it. Because I do have an individual view. I think an individual view, and that's can be very biased as well, is an individual view is that you're responsible for yourself. And it's hard for me to shake. It's hard for me to see it any differently. Because everything I do now revolves around, you know, I have to be accountable. I'm responsible. I make choices. I make decisions. And so as an individual, my actions affect other people. And then I have to be accountable for them, vice versa. And I'm not talking about skin color or any prejudice or racism or anything of that nature. I haven't included that in there. Only because I'm not sitting amongst it. In my worldview, I don't, you know, my skin color puts me in a minority, in a minority classification now. And, you know, I just don't have that perspective, I guess. I'm not in that perspective that this group has. And so when I come from that and I apply it to everybody here, very difficult for me to now sit in here. And for what I think is a victim style, and I'm not saying that they are, but it's a victim perspective. And my opinion is a victim perspective is in a big group is still a victim perspective. But it's difficult to not to be in this mindset or in this way of this view, this world view, when you're sitting here and saying, well, that's the reason. That's the thing. See, that's what we're talking about. That's why we live like this. And I know all of them don't. But when our attention is brought to this particular piece from a huge group, and we've decided that there's a body here that's governing, like law enforcement or like government or committees or boards of state or law enforcement seems to run on this, and we have a perspective of that, of they are run with a particular bias and a particular structure of the legal system, and all that is all geared from this perspective against me or us, then that knocks you around. And that so logically I can understand. I can understand groups of people having that way and having lots of information and lots of data, lots of evidence to support it, to support that it's happening. And so that's it for me. I go, well, yeah, so here's a group, here's what they're saying, and now here's an example of it happening. Hard to walk away from, right? In my common sense. And then I'd say, well, why doesn't the justice system do what it's designed to do? And then if you're constantly seeing that it's not doing what happens to this person when that is proven to be what they did, and then when this person did that, this is what happened to that person. So yeah. So that's my view on that. And I hear this, all lives matter, not just black lives. Okay. I think you're missing the point. You're missing the point there. I think bringing some attention to those areas, I think however way you do that, I think it's overall a positive thing. I mean, I still encourage my perspective of that you got your own responsibility. But, I think it's a little bit different. If I'm sitting here right now and my kids are going to school and I'm a bit worried that the frickers are going to get shot. It's bad enough the guys down the road have all got guns and living a certain way, and the stories are all these. Just be, just take individual responsibility and just move on and get on with it. Give me a break. I don't think that's that doesn't sound like a solution. I'll tell you that much. So I'm not sure I'd have that same. I'm not sure my rational, I would think I was being irrational if I was in that or brought up in this system, in this societal way. I can understand having that perspective. It would be weird not to, actually. No, there's no racism here. There's no bias. There's no tradition. My cousin, let justice be justice. That's the justice. We're going to move on. We're going to get on with it. Really? So it's bad enough, just one or two. So, and then you're going to throw some evidence at me saying that, we treat everybody the same. And when you're constantly seeing and hearing this one line, right? So no, I get that. So Black Lives Matter, I understand. And then I think what I've done too, now that I'm able to see it from those other areas, what tends to happen is that when those subjects come about, interesting, I'm not irritated by them. I'm not like, fucking, who's going on? It was a little bit the same as feminism. Feminism used to be a thing. Like, I'd be, what the hell? What the hell are you going on about? And that's in the same wheelhouse as these subjects. I'm actually willing to go, yeah, I get that. I see that. I think one of the biggest subjects was, why isn't there more women in these sorts of positions? I think it's more complicated than that. So I think where my perspective comes into trying to understand, I think there's more than just the piece we're sticking on there of that, than the data we're trying to use. It's a little bit like there's only 10% of a certain nationality working. Only 10% of them have these jobs. What? We've got to even that up. It's like saying, well, there's only 10% of women that are in these positions. I hate to say it, a lot of the times certain people don't want to do it. And not, then they'll say, well, hold on, the women that do have those jobs aren't getting the same amount paid-wise as the male counterpart for that job. I go, okay, well, those cases, that's still up to the individual, isn't it? Well, there's a bias there. It's easy for me to say that. Yeah, but you don't. There's a bias there. Okay, I'm not sure about that. If I ran a business, and I know people that run a business want the best person to run their business. Now, if they have a bias and a prejudice and a thing about a male or a female, they're missing out. They've reduced their opportunity by 50%. Right? But you'll say to me, well, they don't. I struggle with that one. If I want my business to be the best, I get the best. And that goes all the way down. We've got 2 applicants. One's a male, one's a female. Credentials, things, history, things. You're telling me, oh, female, sorry, male. I don't think so. I think there's more to it. I could be totally wrong. I mean, maybe I'm a male, and so when I own a business, maybe I do have a tendency to gravitate to men more, because a lot of these roles are relationship bound. So being more comfortable around men would be a percentage of your decisions subconsciously. So breaking that down would take a bit more from a woman. Just like if you're not as sociable as a male and you're more sociable as a female, then your advantages and disadvantages can be through that. Someone has to see through those. Okay, well, but there's still this and that, and we still want all that. But if you want someone that's sociable, then I would have thought you wouldn't pick me then. You know what I'm saying? So there are times where I look at it from both sides, and then maybe I'm still a bit biased. But what I'm saying here is you can't just pick out the bit of data that you want to focus on, which even the Black Lives Matter, we could debate that that's what they're doing too. We've pulled it out, stuck it here, and and the feminist groups have pulled out some data and stuck it here too and brought it to our attention. So it's the same methods. And look, I have the same view that the Feminist Party needs to be out there looking for stuff, right? I'm just not sure. I think I still have the same individual case scenario. And I guess too with some of them, then show me someone who's in that position. And maybe you do have to work harder to get those positions. Maybe. But I still think there'll be lots of examples where that's not the case. And then maybe in Black Lives Matter, there's lots of examples of the opposite too. So really, it's more about just debating both sides of the argument, and trying to reduce my biases towards why I stick to this opinion versus that opinion. And what I find with my style is that what generally starts to happen is, even if I am here, I can get some more information, and I've got to scrutinize the information. I've got to make sure it fits, make sure it's in there, to be able to go, okay, I see that more. As opposed to, it just seems to be labeled as that. Just label that, end story. Label that as that. Yep. No, definitely. That's all. It's a racist system. Yep. Definitely. That's all that needs to all change. No, definitely. That's that. Black and white's not working for most of those. But science and information and probably how you produce the data, all those things, how the evidence is coming through, then that all matters too. I guess we come from a society that, well, we've got woman prime ministers, I've seen women as CEOs in my company, the CEOs there. I don't know the percentages. Got women from all levels in the industry I'm in. Maybe other industries have less, potentially. I don't know one that would. Maybe if there is, like you're saying, it's more about the pay scale towards each. Maybe that is worth looking at, bringing it to people's attention again. If it's brought to people's attention, that might help. Like if that brings a blind spot to me, if I'm an owner of a big business and maybe I've done all the hiring of certain execs, and maybe they're all males. Okay. And then if this sort of thing brings something to my attention and gives me a bit of cause to pause, to go, yeah, okay, and evaluate that and look through it, could be worthwhile. I get a win. I can win from this. Same thing from a Black Lives Matter. Maybe I was looking at gender. Maybe I was stereotyping too much. Because the reality is we're doing it anyway. I understand that I've got a bias, 100%. Every opinion I have has an element of bias there. Whether the amount of truth to it is there. For me, it's the ability to have a perspective on all my opinions and to shape and review and analyze and build some more evidence on top of it. And that's to me, that's progress. To me, that's development. And there's only so much I can influence anyway, right? But the great thing is that allows me to influence the people I'm around. And so the more diverse, the more I'm able to challenge my opinions and my perspectives is how I see blind spots and how I can review what I'm doing day to day. Simple as that. Most things may not look much different, but that ability to spend as much time as I can getting out of my own fish pond and look at it from another pond, another side on the same subject. Put myself in there from their perspective and look out. And then that way of viewing things will allow me to progress, I think. But there's I will say this though, it does get to a point where I've got so much background and evidence to something that I then start to struggle to look at another perspective. And then so let's try this one. So the flat earth thing. The flat earth one. Flat earth. Flat earth. It seems to, for me, I have a strong opinion on that. And what tends to happen with me now is I have a strong opinion on the person that's entertained, that has that perspective. And I'm not sure if that's a fair thing. I'm not sure if that's fair. But it's very difficult to change, because that's how I categorize, and if you're defending something that I see as illogical and irrational, I have to work so hard to get around that, and that's where my life gets difficult. And And that's when I start disconnecting, because I can't get over how you think about something or how you came to these conclusions. You know, I just seems to never go away. I don't know why that is. And whether I like it or not, I have it with a lot of things where my opinion is so governed into you personally, right? Or now, because I have this amount of data, amount of knowledge, amount of scientific evidence, all this stuff based on this, and you have yours over here. And now, where are we? So I have to get over it, and you have to get over me. But I don't think that way. I don't think you have to get over me. I think I've got to get over you. And that's the complicated part, right? Well, that's the that's the part where I've got to adapt, you know. And I guess this is how I do it. But I struggle with it to a degree. So now we just don't go there, you know. I mean, even from flat earthers, from horoscopes, or from my wife's into tarot cards readings and stuff. I live with those more okay because my wife uses them for enjoyment and for entertainment, and yet she does value them and hold them into some sort of emotional connection to some of those. But it's not enough to affect us on a day-to-day level. I don't need her to not believe that anymore. I'm reasonably all right, because there's a level of rational and cognitive experience outside of that is there, right? And then I'm reasonable enough to know there's stuff that I may hold on to and think is true, that may not be. So being able to kind of coexist with this sort of way of thinking and mindset enables me to do that. And then I guess that's back on me, as just realizing, same with the flat earther, that's where they sit. And what's the problem? What's the problem with them thinking like that? The only problem with thinking like that is if they're gonna make a decision of how I fly somewhere tomorrow, I'll be thinking, if they're flying the plane, might not get there, But at the end of the day, they believe the Earth's flat. So what? It's back to that, right? I mean, I'm going to debate you for an hour about that, and then be irritated that you actually believe it. So yeah, it's up to me to let go of that stuff. So what other people's believes and agree with, then don't. That's okay. I mean, the flat earthers have very minimal to do with my day-to-day life. I don't think there's too many traditions or too many in my yearly calendar that's affected by decisions or choices that were made because the Earth was flat, right? I guess the only reason I have opinions come up more regularly is when we start having things on a calendar that decides me today, or everybody around me has been decided for, and then the whys were attached to it, and those whys may have been quite valid X amount of years ago, potentially. I was debating one yesterday, was the Queen's birthday. We have a day off for that. I go, what the hell for? I don't get it. It's my opinion. It's from an institution from a long time ago. I don't consider it relevant. The results from where I sit is like, oh, sweet. So, gave me some candy. I'm good. Doesn't matter how I got it, Well, if the why matters, then why is it because it's her birthday? Really? So, questioning those types of things I find interesting, because that does have a difference on the day-to-day. Whereas we're not having a day off because it's Flat Earth Day. I'd be questioning this out. I'd take the day off. Got it. Sweet. But, let's bring attention that the Earth's flat. So those are the times where I get interested, and then as time goes on, they get changed. We had Anzac Day yesterday. I go, that seems to make sense. That seems to be a bit more relevant. Whether I 100% agree with it or not. But if you're going to hold me to having an opinion on something, wars, going to wars, big group of people, some people didn't come back. Wasn't that long ago. Have a day to remember that. Okay, you got me. Wasn't diverse. Everybody was affected. The why seems logical there. The Queen on her birthday. Not for me. You could argue it's a nicer day. It's a nicer subject. I prefer someone that Anzac that died, their birthday. If you want to make it something, someone historic to that, I would have assumed would be more logical. Or, I think we have like a Labor Day. It's the day before summer. It's coming along, and give everybody a a group political day off. I get it's from politics. So you think a political party would get the momentum. I guess that's when it all changes, when the politics say, voting, is everybody into this Queen's Birthday, Queen's Association? Every year, I'd assume that gets lessened. And then when that tips, it's not going to affect your votes. And you've got another way to increase your votes if everyone brings attention to this particular thing to make that a national holiday, then it'll happen. And I guess that's agenda driven and political driven, but that's how it'll work probably. Because, we get more detailed. You try and change Christmas, there'll be political suicide, right? You go, well, why are we celebrating that? But if less people believe that thing, and then more people are disconnected to that, you can change it to summer holidays. Call it that. What's today? It's the summer day off. Good. We're good with that. So yeah, that's how I think about things. And that's how I guess I can move from positive to negative really fast with that way of looking at things. And I don't seem to have a choice on that. When you're changing perspectives or looking at it from another view, it's not going to be positive all the time. And it's not going to be negative all the time. It's just going to be the perspective you're in. So you become quite, I guess you're doing that all the time, but you become a little bit more up and down, flexible. I know some days I can be very, in a darker way of perspective of explaining the same thing. And then from another day, from more of a patient sort of let them give me their example. And then come at that example of it not making sense. But, that becomes tiring and sends you down a rabbit hole quite fast. So a lot of times you've got to stay quite surface driven, depending on where the person's at. Because I guess I do it too, I can be in the dark part of this topic, and then I can be flipped around. Flip me around on it. The problem is I need some more evidence to get me there, or some type of some type of self-awareness to start to understand is that where does that actually matter? Does that actually matter? And even though it does matter, because you generally come to that conclusion, it does matter. Does it actually matter right now? And a lot of the times, It just doesn't. And then you can, what's reasonably interesting about this is that you can actually change subjects quite fluidly. So the more diverse your opinions are, the more educated you are on stuff, the more you learn, the more you understand, the more you appreciate things, the more you value stuff. It's interesting that you can actually flip in and out from stuff that's here to over here to over here. You can bring it in whenever you want. You can actually, what I tend to see is I can see someone else holds this particular opinion and they get quite uncomfortable with it when they're challenged on it. Even something simple as following a sports team. So I have someone here yesterday who's following a particular sports team and seems to have a lot of good evidence towards them possibly winning today. And okay, and your reasons and your rationality is, and they will be subjectional. And then we go, well, okay, let's look at what the TOG says, the bookings. They've got them as 9-1 underdog. $9. Well, that's what they think. And if you honestly think they're going to win, then you would put your money on that, wouldn't you? And, generally we won't. Well, I won't, because they know most of the times the odds are high that they won't. Yet, here we are. Can we just enjoy the game? Okay, we will. But realizing this is an illogical expectation through this game that we're going to win. And then what's interesting is that we have levels of disappointment that we go through the match. And in one that's governed, we can have a particular referee made a call against, which we see as being, that's not correct. Blows us into all sorts of conspiracies and takes us down that rabbit hole. And yet, in the same game, I saw the opposite happen, where the other team got let off with a call. Not so much. Didn't affect me as much. In fact, I brought in words like, I heard words like karma. That's karma. For fuck's sakes. And so the human condition is we're geared towards how we feel right now and what we want to happen, because we want that team to win. Right? Which is the perspective, which is the same debate that they're going to have again tomorrow about another game, and then the following week. And all of that's driven by, we want to be right. We want to know. We want to call things. Yet, sport is a game built on on rules, and it's who follows the rules and who gets away with rules and who does certain things and has certain skill levels that others don't apply in that moment in time. So there's that randomness, but is that randomness enough to have this team win or this team lose at the end of this block of time? We've got a block of time. It starts here and it ends here. We score it. And these guys are out there. We saw a month ago that this guy did all these fantastic things together with these two other guys in the same team, and they won. Following week, won. Following week, won. So that all builds arguments towards what's happening next. There's lots of reasons. There's whys under that. There's whys under that. There's data under that. And then this week, lose. What the hell? Oh, he didn't do that. Oh, he didn't do that. Why didn't he do that? Shock. And the same as lost every week. Lost, won. Wow, see, that's hope and bullshit behind that one, and despair and disgust behind this one. And then here we go next week. The whole industries build their stuff off it. So yes, the sport gives me a real. You think that's a safe subject to sort of debate, yet it's not, because it can be illogical and irrational. You feel stupid when it's pointed out, right? You feel like someone's against you. You're against me. If I go for, even if New Zealand's playing another country, and I think the other country's going to win. I want to listen to you. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to know that. That's true. You don't. None of us do. Okay. Let's just sit here and support the team. And if they lose, they lose. If they win, they win. Can we just do that? And be upset, happy, unhappy. And that's all it is, really. It's entertainment. Trying to be philosophical and deep on it all the time doesn't sort of work. It works for me, so that helps. Helps rationalize my whole perspective on it too. So yes, so what have we got left? I think that's enough for one day. Positive opinions versus negative opinions. I guess the style too can be seen quite negative, in a negative light most of the time. Depends on how I want to frame it, or which I'm going to entertain. If I feel like I want to be right, then I'm going to be right. If I feel like it doesn't matter whether I'm right or wrong, then I can just stay here in an individual perspective. If I'm a player in a team and we're losing every week, we're just going to be an individual about that either way. When I'm a loser or a win, I'm still building from an individual perspective. Everybody in that team is doing an individual mindset of accountability, responsibility. I'm training, you're training, you're learning, I'm learning. We're trying to get better. If I'm trying to get better, team gets better. If he's trying to get better, team gets better. If we're disagreeing, if we're not thinking you're you're getting it or you're strategizing it, we're going to deal with it. How are we going to deal with that? I've got to get better. I've got to get to that mark. I've got to take, right? If we're all doing that, then it works. Now, the debate becomes if we're not, or if I don't think you are and you don't think I am. Now it's tough. Now that's why we have a system here that we prescribe to. If we're all doing the same thing towards the system, so from a play-by-play level, if this is the play we're running and we all run the play, then we all did our job. Now if the play broke down, I think we've got a reason behind the play not working, that's what we've got. Then we've got the next play, so on and so on. And it builds from that. So yeah, still comes back to the individual. That's what my opinion is. That's my perspective. And it's going to be hard to change, I think. Individually, I help everybody else. I can't ask someone else to change. Last time I checked.